Can you believe this? Sometimes it's not good to be rich. I just posted a $91 million bond, 91 million, on a fake story, totally made up story. Think of it, 91 million. I could say things about what it would cost normally. 91 million. Based on false accusations made about me by a woman that I knew nothing about, didn't know, never heard of. I know nothing about her. She wrote a book, she said things. And when I denied it, I said, it's so crazy, it's false. I got sued for defamation.
It's a bunch of malarkey.
It's more than malarkey. So this idea is a bunch of malarkey, what we're talking about here.
An economy based on wind. I never understood wind. You know, I know windmills very much. I've studied it better than anybody. I know it's very expensive. They're made in China and Germany mostly. Very few made here, almost none. But they're manufactured tremendous, if you're into this, tremendous fumes, gases are spewing into the atmosphere. You know, we have a world, right? So the world is tiny compared to the universe. So tremendous amount of fumes and everything. You talk about the carbon footprint. Fumes are spewing into the air, right? Spewing. Whether it's in China, Germany, it's going into the air, it's our air, their air, everything, right? So they make these things, and then they put them up. And if you own a house within vision of some of these monsters, your house is worth 50% of the price. They're noisy. They kill the birds. You want to see a bird graveyard? You just go, take a look. A bird graveyard? Go under a windmill someday. You'll see more birds than you've ever seen ever in your life. You know, in California, they were killing the bald eagle. If you shoot a bald eagle, they want to put you in jail for 10 years. A windmill will kill many bald eagles. It's true. And you know what? After a certain number, they make you turn the windmill off. That's true, by the way. They make you turn it off after. And yet, if you killed one, they put you in jail. That's okay. But why is it okay for these windmills to destroy the bird population? And that's what they're doing.
A bunch of malarkey.
Two nights ago, we all heard Crooked Joe's angry, dark, hate-filled rant of a State of the Union address. Didn't it bring us together? Remember, he said, I'm going to bring the country together. I'm going to bring it together. Shades of color. They're like sort of white, but one's like an orange white. My favorite color, orange.
A bunch of malarkey.
I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the you can do anything. That's what you said, correct?
Well, historically, that's true with stars.
It's true with stars that they can grab women by
Well, that's what it's. If you look over the last million years, I guess that's been largely true. Not always, but largely true. Unfortunately or fortunately.
And you consider yourself to be a star?
I think you can say that, yeah.
myself.
What are we going to do here, folks? I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break. Why do you keep fighting this thing? It just doesn't make sense.
We have to stand by our numbers. We believe our numbers are right.
What are we going to do here, folks? I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas.
It's a bunch of malarkey.
It's more than malarkey, man. It's more than malarkey. So this idea is a bunch of malarkey, what we're talking about here.
Ladies and gentlemen, the political gamer.
What up, everybody? Happy Wednesday to you all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. Let's get going for the evening. How is everyone doing? Hopefully everyone's doing fine. Tell ya, it has been an exhausting week already. The amount of news that we get from the Trump trial that I am not complaining about. I am not complaining about how much news we get at all. But the amount of news that we get is just massive. To chew through as much news as you want. This is the time to be alive, folks. This is the time to be an interested person in court cases right now. I mean, imagine just like 20 years ago. If you can. For me, I can definitely imagine 20 years ago. I'm 36 years old, so I can imagine 20 years ago. But I remember being a kid and, court cases would happen. You'd be watching the local news to figure out what was happening, but you really wouldn't have any idea what was happening in any of these court cases. Because we're not gonna how do we hear this other than local news? The internet wasn't as big as it was then. Newspapers were a thing still, and that was probably another great source that you were able to go through and do to be able to get your information. But as far as today goes, you get this information almost live, instantaneous. As soon as Trump does something in the courtroom, we get tweets about it. We get to hear about it. It's all over the notifications of our phone for those of us that are just news junkies. And it's truly amazing. What a time to be alive. First off for tonight, just got to give a shout out to David Attenborough, the great David Attenborough. He's turning 98 years old today. So congratulations to David Attenborough. You are living a lot better life at a much older age than I will ever. I can almost guarantee you that. However, who knows? If I end up, being, 115 and David Attenborough doesn't make it that old, then I've got him. But I'll be honest with you, Sir David Attenborough is an amazing human being. If y'all don't know who David Attenborough is, he is the narrator for almost any and all Net Geo animal Earth style documentary, like the Blue Ocean or Green Earth or Mother Earth or any of those documentaries that deal with the animals and wildlife and just the natural formations of Earth. It's going to be David Attenborough, Sir David Attenborough. So love that. Happy birthday to you, David Attenborough. Next up, I wanted to talk about, apparently, it's a flashback. They mentioned that everything comes back around at some point. So apparently in the era of smartphones, we are wanting that nostalgia. So I don't know how this is going to turn out, but Nokia is bringing back one of its brick phones from 1999. It's bringing back the 3210 phone. It's one of those Nokia brick phones that would be famous in movies. It was almost an indestructible phone for back then. And I'm sure all of us had some sort of phone that was similar to that 3210 Nokia phone. It was a fantastic phone during its time frame. Up until the Razor took over, or those of y'all that remember, y'all had the Sidekick. The Sidekick was another one of those fantastic phones. I never had a Sidekick, but I did have a Razor. Razors were the shit. But we'll see how this works. I mean, Nokia is supposed to be launching that here in 2024, late 2024. 2025 is when we're expected to get that into the stores. I don't know. I don't think I'm willing to abandon the iPhone or even just like an Android phone right now to be able to have a brick phone or a style of phone that's like a brick phone. But who knows? It might be the next thing. Fads always come back around. I currently just love my large screen too much. I tell you, if I didn't work in the industry that I work in, I would definitely be interested in getting one of those fold out tablet style phones, not the flip one because that one's too small, but like the bifold, the actual like very large elongated tablet folding phone. That one would be very neat, but I'd say I'd break it in like a week or two. I got kids and whatnot, so it's gonna break for sure. But I mean, with Nokia doing that, I wonder how they're going to be able to function in a market that's flooded with smartphones with large screens. The other thing is, I'm not sure how they're going to function after we already had like two like retro style phones try and come back. We had the Razor that tried to come back. Didn't we have the Sidekick as well try and come back? Like the Sidekick tried to come back in a smartphone version and that didn't work well either. So I'm not really sure how this brick style phone's gonna make it come back in the smartphone era, but we'll see. It's all about marketing, right? You get enough influencers with that phone and it'll take off. You've got to figure out how to get Kim Kardashian back in that phone and it will take off. I mean, I wonder how big the screen would be. I wonder if the screen itself is going to be like a very thin brick with a massive screen. If that's the case, it might be a pretty cool phone. We'll have to wait and see. So tonight's main topic for the show is definitely going to be Donald Trump, right? Like it's what we are all talking about when you're dealing with politics right now, whether you're pro-Trump, whether you're anti-Trump, it's all about Trump. And we can talk about some of the updates in the case that has come out this week. It has been a stormy week, as everyone has said. The dad jokes are flying because it's been a stormy week for Donald Trump because Stormy Daniels took the stand. And, it was just devastating. For those of you that follow me on TikTok, I posted a couple of videos about this. It's had a pretty good response, but we're basically talking about, apparently, so for those of y'all that aren't, following the news and aren't following the Donald Trump bandwagon there, whether good or bad, Stormy Daniels ended up taking the stand this week, and apparently the testimony was so devastating that Stormy Daniels' testimony just shook the case to the core, not having almost anything to do with the allegations, right, that are pressed against the former president, Donald J. Trump, but the discussion of how they met. The hush money payment is to cover up the sex acts that had occurred with Stormy Daniels, but what her testimony really kind of focused on was the lead up to the hush money payment, which would include this one night stand that they had. And, it goes all the way back to 2006. Stormy Daniels was at a golf tournament, her production company had, a sponsorship, and she basically was the starlet there to be able to sponsor her organization, and Trump ended up going through and I guess seeing her and got his, and this is a common thing that apparently Trump has done, yet again. This is what the reporting is, that he uses his bodyguard to be able to make that first contact, and that bodyguard makes the first contact and goes through and lets the Stormy Daniels know that he was interested in meeting with her, asked her if he could pass his contact along through his assistant. Then his assistant was able to get in touch with Stormy Daniels, pass Trump's personal contact along, and then Trump asked her to dinner. But before they went to dinner, he asked her up to his hotel room for drinks, and she obliged and went up to the hotel room. After a lengthy discussion just about, different topics that you would when you first meet someone, she ended up needing to probably take a break to use the bathroom. She said that she had to go relieve herself. Whenever she came back, Trump was pretty much naked on the bed and was ready to go. With that being said, she did not feel, to her own words, to quote, that this was anything that she's ashamed of. She did say that there was definitely a power struggle, though. There was definitely a inequivalence of power that she felt, and to mention that he might have been forcing or intimidating her to continue with this sex act, and because of that, ultimately, this is what led to, years later, Trump's running for president, and there's the hush money payment to keep her quiet before it comes out and spoils the election for him. And this is how we get to that point where crimes have been committed with campaign finances. And then we move along into today's issue of where we're in trial and Stormy Daniels is there testifying against Donald J. Trump for the state and the prosecution. So this is the elongated but shortened down Cliff Notes version of what happened. And the testimony kind of focused on that one night stand. And even though that didn't have too much to do with the actual law breaking that happened, in this alleged, we could talk about how this could have been a rape, but with the alleged crimes currently charged in this proceeding, whatever Trump is charged with, these crimes, before we get to those, they really focused on that sexual act that had occurred, and they were discussing, that power shift, that power struggle that happened there, and how Stormy Daniels really felt that she almost had to do this. And because of that, the Trump attorneys decided to make a motion immediately following her testimony to dismiss the case and declared a mistrial. Of course, Judge Marchand did not agree to that, but ultimately their argument was that the case was so just the testimony by Stormy Daniels was so devastating, was so impactful, and didn't really focus on the facts of the crimes that they, being the state, says that was committed here, but focused on more of like a rape case. That almost any jury could not find Trump not guilty because of that. However that might be and how great that would be. I think basically it boils down to their argument was, look, that testimony was for a rape case, which my client is not involved in a rape charge right now. However, it may seem that way, and we have to acknowledge that because of what you're saying happened that way. I'm going to say that has nothing to do with the case, and now the jury is warped because they think that my client is a rapist, and we have to admit that if that's what happened, then then he is. So with that being said, of course, Judge Marchand decided that this was, bogus, and he did not agree to issue a stay or issue a mistrial or dismiss the charges. So we continue on. That was today, which is Wednesday, so this was their break day. That was Tuesday when all this happened. So now we're into Thursday tomorrow, and we're going to be able to find out more of what happened there. I can tell you that Michael Cohen has got to be called at some point. I'm not sure when Michael Cohen will be called, but Michael Cohen has got to be called. I'm assuming that Michael Cohen is going to be called maybe tomorrow morning. I'm not sure if the defense is cross-examined. I can tell you that Donald Trump's defense here in this case has been pretty subpar. Not only has his lawyer admitted that he, being Donald Trump, cannot testify at his own hearing in his own defense because of a gag order, which is just absurd. That is not something that is, constitutionally possible. You always have the right to testify in your defense. It is strongly recommended that you never do. And I'll be honest with y'all. My wife and I joke all the time, but if we are ever charged with a crime, I am never testifying in my own defense. That's the worst thing you can do, is get up on that stand. So I don't blame Trump for not testifying. What we do blame Trump for as like media gurus or news junkies is because Trump will tell you leading up to a lawsuit or up to a case that he is willing to testify. He's going to testify. And we get to that case and he just never testifies. I'm not really sure why he never testifies, but he just never testifies. So, that's what I personally think is hilarious about it. I mean, I don't knock him for testifying. But whenever you say I plead the fifth, I tell you that really does sound guilty, though. I plead the Fifth Amendment, the right to not incriminate yourself is what people do. I personally think that whenever someone is trying to look innocent but they are totally guilty, they're gonna claim the Fifth Amendment. But a lot of that could be in the deposition, right? So if we had listened to the depositions, which depending upon how long this Trump trial goes and whatnot, we might actually get to some of the depositions and listen to some of those, which are just fantastic. Also, we're gonna end up going through and if we do get to listen to those, there is one deposition where Trump just says, I plead the Fifth Amendment, I plead the Fifth, I plead the Fifth, I plead the Fifth, over and over again. And that's pretty standard for Trump during these depositions. Some of them, though, are, I guess, too high profile for him to want to do that. So he has to answer these questions honestly and truthfully because they come in with facts and evidence and whatnot. But for those of us that are probably not going to ever have to deal with this problem, hopefully myself and many of you out there, I tell you, I am never going to take the stand on my own defense. It sounds like the worst. I don't know why anyone would. So 100% with Trump on that. However, I think that's where my devotion to Trump stops. Is I think that's the only comment that we share is I am not going to testify. The problem is that he says he will testify. He gets people rallied up and changes his mind last minute. He finds anything to blame it on that he's not going to testify. The funny thing is, I think we've gotten to the point where he was talking about wanting to go to his son's graduation, and he was saying that the judge wouldn't let him go. But ultimately, I think Barron's graduation is coming up, so we're going to see if he's going to go. My guess is that he's not going to. Trump for weeks now has mentioned how, he's in this courtroom and he can't campaign. It's important to remember that he's only in the courtroom Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So that means he has all of day Wednesday, all of day Saturday and Sunday to go around and campaign and, do whatever he wants to do for his campaign for 2024 Republican ticket in the presidential campaign. But he never does anything. He just goes back to Mar-a-Lago and he ends up going through and, playing golf. And that's one of the unfortunate things about this whole situation is it's a dog and pony show. It's basically Trump saying one thing but doing another. Trump always gets people to believe that he's going to testify and then he doesn't. That's just how Trump is, he's a lot of New Yorkers are involved in this case. And I mean, people who are New Yorkers who are lawyers and are journalists and are news anchors and are writers. And they'll tell you that this is just a standard New York case. It is almost like a mob boss. It has got a lot of flair to it. And it's got a lot of crime to it. And it's just a standard good old New York case, is what they say. So I don't know if I've watched a New York case, a good old standard New York case so closely, but I tell you, I am this one, so I know what the bar is set at now. But it makes me kind of want to go back and watch some of the Teamsters trials as they go through for the massive. Basically, Teamster is going to be the mafia, but if we go back through and look at some of those mafia trials, I bet they would be, you know, pretty wild as well. Definitely a lot of flair, a lot of storylines, a lot of witnesses, and that's what we have here. Some of the witnesses we've had so far is Stormy Daniels' lawyer, who also was the lawyer for Karen McDougal. We've had Karen McDougal. We've now had Stormy Daniels. I believe she's got a couple days. We've had Hope Hicks. We've also had Karen McDougal on. We've had 2 employees of the Trump administration who one of them worked at the Trump industry, or, you know, whatever. It's the fraud business that he owns, but worked there for nearly 40 years. Trump has been saying that the witnesses are sandbagging him, but, you know, first off, like, Hope Hicks, like, cried on the witness stand because she just loves Trump so much. She's from the Trump administration. She worked for Ivanka for many years, and then she worked for Trump for many years, and then she was pulled into the White House. So, you know, she actually, you know, had a little bit of testimony to say that from her point of view, Trump had a normal family business and she didn't see anything wrong with it. However, it was the other questions that she answered that led them to have, you know, supporting structure details about the crimes that were committed. When asked, you know, did Trump know about the hush money payment that was being made, she said yes. Trump had apparently asked her multiple times about it. How are people receiving it? How would you receive it? And this was, you know, before the campaign, during the campaign, and after the campaign as well. When the story broke. So there was a lot that goes into it. And, you know, it's important to remember that, you know, individual witness is not going to be the main, you know, meat and potatoes of the story, right? So the main witness itself isn't the meat and potatoes. What happens is, because the main witness is Michael Cohen, but Michael Cohen is a disgraced witness, right? Because he's already committed crimes, he's served jail time, he's admitted to lying and perjuring himself on the stand. So that right there gives him a huge discredit. But it's important to remember that even though there's this huge discredit, they, being the state, the prosecution, has been able to corroborate his story. They're not going to get too far off the beaten path and have, you know, Michael Cohen answer these pretty basic questions about, you know, his feelings for Trump or some of the business dealings he did for Trump. What they're going to do is very specific, targeted questions about the money. How did the money transfer, and this, that, and the other? Because he's the only one with that knowledge. And you're going to have that bias towards him, right? Just being that kind of shady character that he is. But that's what the other witnesses are for. The other witnesses are to go through and, you know, kind of shore up his story, make the dots connect. Is to be able to turn on the lights, if you will. So that way the jury is able to see that even though Michael Cohen is a disgraced witness, his storyline is being corroborated by other people who are credible. And credible meaning that we have no reason not to believe their story. And it's important that that is an important thing for a jury, right? So you don't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt with one witness, or believe beyond a reasonable doubt that that one witness is telling you 100% the truth. What you need to do is show the jury that this witness is telling the truth or is credible. So what they say is happening is happening. And then you take the next witness that's going to corroborate what they said. So now 2 people that are credible, you have no reason not to believe them, has said pretty much the exact same thing and has backed each other up. All right, so this is turning out to be a true story. And then a third, and then a fourth, and then a fifth. So that way, when you get the smoking gun, the main witness, Michael Cohen, gets in there, then that's the real big deal, because he is normally going to be perceived as the liar, but he's saying the same story that everyone else is saying. So that elevates him to a new different level. Plus, when they get to those finite details, you're going to take him a lot more seriously, and you're probably going to believe him. And that's what this case is all about. I'm expecting maybe next week we'll be able to get a verdict next week. So that is really soon. That is really soon. When we're talking about that, I mean, that's very soon. Let's see here. What's clear all these. Let's take a look here. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's super soon. I was not expecting a verdict that soon, but it looks like maybe by Thursday, Friday, we could have a verdict. I tell you, it seems like if Stormy Daniels done today, we clearly only have one witness left, and it's Michael Cohen. And it's a smart move by the prosecution to have Michael Cohen as the last witness. It's also going to be probably the most time spent on a witness as well, because, you know, the other witnesses are credible. So you have to kind of take what they say at its value and use that to help create your storyline for the jury to be able to come up with their decision. But Michael Cohen is different. They can actually poke and prod and bring up other things, really kind of smear the credibility of that witness, because Michael Cohen is kind of like the glue that holds all the pieces together. And all the pieces are the people who have these corroborating stories, right? So they all are individually backing each other up, but they're individual pieces, and it doesn't make too much sense without Michael Cohen. But Michael Cohen's able to tie everything together, kind of keep everything together, and then that's going to be the real witness and the real power of Michael Cohen's testimony. So I imagine as much as he's going to spend on the stand with the prosecution questioning, we're probably going to see almost the exact same amount of time from the defense trying to tear down apart, if not more time, trying to tear down Michael Cohen's testimony. And that's all going to be during the cross-examination. If that's where we're at and we end up, let's say, Friday, Michael Cohen is still on the stand, into Monday, I assume that late Monday or Tuesday, we could be in jury deliberations if closing arguments only last one day. And I feel like a 2-hour closing argument is definitely going to be where we're at. So roughly 4 hours. So even if we take lunch and we come back, we're probably going to be able to get to closing arguments that day. And that means that, you know, obviously there's Wednesday. I don't know what the rules are whenever we have a jury that needs to deliberate and it's an off day for the court, if the jurors get to go through and, you know, still deliberate, or do they have to be sequestered as well on that off day? I don't know. We're going to find out, though. But they could be in deliberation on Tuesday, Wednesday, if they're in session for that, Thursday, and I assume by late Thursday or Friday, we could have a verdict. I mean, there is a chance that this thing could get hung. There also is a chance that we could end up with a, you know, up to about a week jury deliberations. It just depends on what the hardcore evidence is. You know, we don't get a lot of that hardcore evidence out here in the public at this time, but it'd be interesting to see what's going on next week, how that works, all that. So maybe next week. Maybe next week is what we're looking at. You know, while all this is happening, Trump has been held in contempt of court several times. Yesterday, on Tuesday, basically Judge Merchan had issued Trump a final warning saying that, you know, Mr. Trump, obviously the $1,000 per infraction fines are doing nothing for you. It is, you know, not really having the effect of protecting the integrity of the court. So with that being said, the next step that I have is jail. And I don't want to do that. It is not something that looks fun for me. It is not something that is going to be great for the schedule of the court. It is not something that is going to be great for you as well as a defendant who currently right now is innocent until proven guilty. It is definitely something that must be done for the integrity of the court. It's important to remember that just Trump can't keep his fucking mouth shut, right? He can't not say these things about jurors and about witnesses and about, Judge Merchan's family, and the prosecution's extended family as well. And that's the other thing. Trump says he has this gag order. He can't say anything. I mean, he can talk about the judge all he wants to. He can talk about the prosecution all he wants to. He's not able to talk about the family of the prosecution, the family of the judge. He's not allowed to talk about the jurors or the witnesses at any point in time, but pretty much anything else is fair game. He starts talking about, he's on the campaign trail and he's, gagged. There's, he's got this freedom of speech that's been taken away. I mean, you can talk about Joe Biden. Like, you're not gagged from talking about Joe Biden. He keeps saying that this is a Biden, rigged kangaroo court. Like, you can attack Biden all you want, right? You can say whatever you want about Biden. But Biden, Harris, the upcoming election, you can talk about other cases that you don't have currently restraining orders or gag orders on. You can talk about so many things, but you just can't not stop talking. He just cannot stop talking about the current proceedings, and also the proceedings from the civil case that he just lost with E. Jean Carroll. He can't talk about that as well. It's truly insane. I've never seen a grown ass adult who is acting like such a child. And I watched that Wisconsin case with the frauditor or First Amendment frauditor guy who was driving the car through a crowd, super sad, who was all about conspiracy theorists and whatnot. I was watching that whole trial, and that guy was really tough to watch, but Trump is even more so. It's just truly crazy. I mean, he's posting on True Social, and for those of y'all that aren't on True Social, I mean, you're not missing much. But he's posting on True Social, just some of the craziest rants. This one is from this morning, 7:17 a.m. It is really bad feeling to have constitutional right to free speech, such a big part of life in our country, so unfairly taken from you, especially when all of the sleaze bags, lowlifes, and grifters that you oppose are allowed to say absolutely anything that they want. It is hard to sit back and listen to the lies and false statements be made against you, knowing that if you respond even in the most modest fashion, which we got to stop here. I mean, when has Trump ever responded in a modest fashion? But even in the most modest fashion, you were told by a corrupt and highly conflicted judge that you will be put in prison, maybe for a long period of time. This fascist mindset is all crooked Joe Biden's political opponent, me, Judge Enguerrand and Kaplan, also of New York, are equally corrupt, only in different ways. I mean, the fact that he also calls them highly conflicted and, whatnot. I mean, so it seems like it's the same way, but all in different ways. Kaplan, also to New York, are equally corrupt, only in different ways. What these thugs are doing is an attack on the Republican Party and our once great nation itself. Our First Amendment must stand free and strong. Give me liberty or give me death. That's from Trump's True Social at Real Donald Trump. That was the truth that was posted this morning at 7:17 a.m. The guy's unhinged. And I mean, if I just go to True Social right now, I mean, you're going to find so many things that have, just completely taken over Donald Trump. So at Real Donald Trump, we're right here. So this is going to be a response 5 hours ago to Marjorie Taylor Greene and what Marjorie Taylor Greene was doing. So I haven't even read this. So this is hot press stuff right here for us in American Politics 101. I absolutely love Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's got spirit. She's got fight. And I believe she'll be around and on our side for a long time to come. However, right now, Republicans have to be fighting the radical left Democrats and all the damage they have done to our country, with a majority of 1 shortly growing to 3 or 4, we're not in a position of voting on a motion to vacate. At some point, we may very well be, but this is not the time. We are leading in the presidential polls, which, by the way, he's not leading in the presidential polls. He's leading in the polls that he believes he's leading in, but that's not what the actual legit polls are stating. Joe Biden is clearly inching in ahead of Donald J. Trump. They are neck and neck, but Joe Biden is coming in at the lead. We are leading in the presidential polls by a lot, both nationally and in swing states. Likewise, we are doing well in the Senate, and I believe will do well in the House. But if we show disunity, which be portrayed as chaos, it will be negatively affected everything. Mike Johnson is a good man who is trying very hard. I also wish certain things were done over the last period of 2 months, but we will get them done. Together, it is my request that Republicans vote for the motion to table. We will win big, and it will be soon. That's probably one of the most presidential things that Trump has ever said. It is definitely preaching to the choir in his party. But he's right? Like, Republicans can't vacate the chair right now. This would be the end of the election for him. The election is pretty much already, I'm almost positive, is the end of the election for them. We'll see what the vote turnout is. But if they vacate the chair, that's it. It's done. Peace. Gone. We'll have to wait and see over the next couple of days. But I believe that we're going to probably have a tabled vote. Democrats have also mentioned that they're going to come in and save the Speaker of the House, but we'll see what happens. It's truly insane to be alive right now. I was talking to my wife earlier, and I was telling her that it truly is amazing to be alive. There's the great generation that was before the baby boomers. There's the baby boomers. There's Gen X. There's millennials. There's Gen Z. And right now is probably a really great time to be alive, not only because of all the scientific advancements that we're making, not only because we are potentially finding possible life on other planets. We're going to be going to the moon. We're going to be going to Mars over the next 5 years, because we have the space race happening all over again. We're talking about commercial liners in space, where some point in our lifetime, probably not our bank account, but our lifetime, people and humans will be able to go to space and be able to live for a week or 2 weeks or take vacations in space. That is a great place for the human race to be. It's science fiction, at its best. But when you think about politics, it is also a great time to be alive, because after everything is said and done, we're seeing one of the craziest candidates we've ever seen, the oldest candidates that we've ever seen, and some of the most massive support that we've ever seen for either the oldest candidate that we've ever seen or some of the most massive support for the biggest idiot that we've ever seen. And that is truly a time to be alive. To be able to see what happens with our Constitution, if our Constitution is able to be held, and is it going to allow us to continue moving forward past this 240-year mark and keep on moving into the 300-year mark? A lot of people don't realize this, but, the United Kingdom, Great Britain, England, whatever you want to call it, has been a institution, a country for well over 1,500 years. It's honestly insane. Going all the way back to Merlin, when Merlin and the native people of the islands along the island chains along the UK were forming, and the legends of Arthur and all the kings and everything, for nearly 1,500 years, they've been basically a country here and there. And it's just truly insane to think that, we have only been around and are as powerful as we are, but only been around for nearly 240 years. I hope the great American experiment continues on, and I hope that this is not our last fair, quote unquote, election. I tell you what, I am going to be voting for Joe Biden, and I hope that you guys are voting for Joe Biden as well. If you are not voting for Joe Biden, please remember to come into the show and let us know why you're not going to be voting for Joe Biden, and we are always going to be able to discuss. I tell you what, I am going to be back Friday, and on Friday we're going to be playing probably some Heroes to Gold, and we're going to be listening to the Trump immunity case that was presented in front of SCOTUS. I've listened to it 3 or 4 times by now, and it is just a phenomenal case. It is kind of wild to be able to listen to, but we're going to see if we can get that listened to and get that going. That is truly a amazing case. If there's any case that you want to listen to, I recommend listening to that one, because it is honestly just remarkable what is happening there. Some of the questions that are asked, some of the conservative justices that you would expect are going to be kind of pro-Trump actually ask some pretty tough questions to Trump's counsel. I tell you that both the lawyers who are arguing to the Supreme Court have some very awkward voices. This coming from me, but still, they have some very awkward voices, but nevertheless, it is a great time. So hopefully we'll see you guys then. And just remember, we are on all social media platforms, so please remember to drop a follow. We're really pushing that TikTok right now, while TikTok is still legal and is moving around. But other than that, we're going to be back on Friday, and we're going to continue with our normal schedule next week. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. Peace out, stay neat. And I tell you what, if you guys aren't aware, we actually have a podcast on Spotify. Every Thursday is when I'm trying to put out an episode, and it's going to be the episodes that we currently have been having here for American Politics 101. I hope you guys download it, check it out. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you'd like to see. I'm the Political Gamer, and I'll catch you guys next time.
This podcast produced by The Political Gamer, edited by The Political Gamer,